And now, Tales from the Mission.
This is a story that was submitted to us by our older brother. So he served in St. Petersburg, Russia on his mission.
At the very beginning of my mission, so I was like 3 months in the mission field. I had been transferred to a new area with a new companion. Already on the mission, by the time you've gotten through your first couple of transfers, you've had a lot of peaks and valleys. By this time, I had come to find out in my mission that it was a pretty tough mission. So I served in Russia, and as you guys both know, it's pretty tough crowd there sometimes. I was there with my companion. He, very dedicated, very obedient elder, and we sat down for our first planning meeting, and I told him, hey, you know what, I'm on board. I was still pretty fired up. I was new to the mission and really wanted to see some success, some miracles on the mission. I was ready for this. And so I told him, and he was like, you know what? Me too. Let's do this. And so we sat down and we said, like, and I asked him, like, so what are we working with here? Like, how many people are we teaching? What are our prospects like? Come to find out, in that small little suburb of St. Petersburg, there was not a lot going on. We did not have anybody to teach there at all. And that, like, absolutely nobody wanted to talk to us on the streets. So, he broke the news to me, and it was just like, all right, well, we gotta start somewhere. So let's get going on this. And so what we decided to do is that, let's try to be both as obedient as we can be. Let's try to just follow everything that we should. Let's just do what we should do. And that included, like, let's speak the mission language to each other, which in our case, that was Russian. And, it was pretty hard for me because I didn't speak Russian very well, only being 3 months into the mission. And my companion spoke quite a bit better than I did. So I think it was harder on him because he could say things I didn't often understand, and I had a hard time reciprocating what I wanted to say. For this week, we're going to try it 100%. We're going to just pray and hope that the Lord will lead us to one person this week to teach. One person to teach one lesson. That's it. That's all we were. And for us, that was like shooting for the moon because we hadn't had anybody to teach for a very, very long time. So we go, that was on a Friday. We go through Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and it's just business as usual, kind of the normal missionary grind. And, we start getting into Tuesday, into Wednesday, and it's like, oh man, like, I don't know about this. This is really cutting it kind of close. And, on the streets, we would find people. We would go to the train station very often to try to find people in this little suburb. They'd all come back from the big city after work. And so we go and try to just talk to people, just strike up conversations with people on the street as they were coming home from work. And I tried one of our normal phrases of just like, hey, do you have a moment that we could talk with you? And the guy, to our shock, just said, like, actually, yeah, I do have a moment. And he's just like, what is it that you wanted to talk about? And I remember, like, my companion and I just both kind of like gave each other like this like sidelong glance, and we're just like, we clearly were not expecting to actually to have a conversation with somebody on the street. And so anyway, like, I just said, like, we would like to talk to you about some of really important questions of, like, where did you come from before you were born? Why are you here? And where will you go after you die? And I just said, have you ever pondered these questions? And would you like to talk to us about this? And he said, yes, I would. I would like to talk to you guys. And I would like to know more about your church in general. And we were just dumbfounded. And so he said, but before we start anything, I need to buy you both a drink. And, we explained the whole thing, like, oh, sorry, we don't drink alcohol. And he's just like, that's no problem. I'll get you both some coffee or some tea. And we were like, oh, actually, we don't drink coffee or tea. And then he's just like, how about some juice? And we were like, yes, bingo. Yeah, we will take some juice. That would be great, And we were just dumbfounded that this guy was still trying. We were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we haven't blown it at this point. So he takes us into this little cafe. We sit down. We have our juice with him. And he just starts asking us all sorts of, like, very honest, sincere questions that he has about our church, the founding of our church. So we, in our broken Russian, we kind of go back and forth trying to just teach him. And it was mostly my companion because he, had more experience. I didn't speak Russian very well, going back and forth with him. And, at the end, he just made the remark of like, this has been a really spiritual experience for me, and I am really happy that I ran into you guys today. And we asked him, we were like, well, we'd love to take down your information and visit with you another time and talk more about this, and he said, unfortunately I'm not from here, so I don't think it would do much use to give you my information. We're like, oh, we can give it to other missionaries. And he's like, I appreciate it, but no thank you. And we said, that's fine, we respect that. And he said, but I really want you to know that I'm happy that I met with you guys today. And just like that, he left. Just this older man, probably in 50s or 60s, very well dressed, graciously paid for our juices, and he left. He was one of the nicest Russian interactions I had up to that point, with somebody from the streets. And looking back on that, my companion and I were just completely dumbfounded, absolutely shell-shocked that this happened. And it was a really big testimony builder to me that the Lord does hold up his end of the deal. Like we had promised and just said, like, you know what, we're going to make this effort. We're going to consecrate ourselves as much as we can, just to be as good as we can be for this week. And we are praying and hoping to be led to somebody to teach this week.
We've got an open invite for anyone who wants to be on the show to come on, share your missionary stories, your conversion stories, family history stories. We love all of those things. We want to kind of fill the internet a little bit more with those faith-promoting stories.
Yeah, we'll put a link to the form in the description so you guys can click that link and fill it out.
And there was this part of our area that was an Indian tribe. And this was the Tobakom tribe. And they were super cool, really humble people and super happy. And we had a couple of investigators over there. A lot of people there were terribly, terribly poor. And they couldn't even afford like a bus ticket, which was super, super cheap. It was like 2,000 guaranis, which was like maybe like a couple cents. I don't know, maybe 50 cents, maybe $1. They couldn't afford that to go to church. And so the church would actually pay a member who had a truck to go out there and to collect everybody and to bring them to church. And so one Sunday, we're driving out there, and as we're driving out there, this massive downpour starts. And there's something to know about Paraguay. Paraguayans, they don't just dislike the rain, they are terrified of the rain. The whole country stops whenever it rains. This was bad news because nobody comes out of their house when it's raining outside. And we're like, oh no, like all of the investigators that were going to come to church are now not going to be able to come. And so we get out to the tribe, we just continue forward. We're like, all right, we're already in here. Let's just keep going forward. So we go forward. It starts raining even harder. We get into this little grove of trees by the houses of a handful of members, and we get out of this truck, and it's still coming down like cats and dogs. And so my companion and I were like, all right, well, let's say a prayer real quick. So we pray, and in the prayer, we ask that the rain might stop so that we can get these investigators to church. And as soon as we said amen, the rain stopped. There was not like a single drop that was coming out of the sky. So the rain stopped. We got all of these investigators into the church. And not only that, like they started bringing their family members and friends into the truck as well. Like they just started coming in by droves. And so we ended up having like 10 or it definitely wasn't safe, but we had like 10 or 15 people in the back of this truck that all wanted to come to church with us. And we're like, great, yeah, come along. And so they got into the back of this truck. We hopped in and we were like, all right, let's go. So we drove all the way to the church. And then as soon as we got to the church and the last person crossed the threshold into the church, it started pouring again. So the rain came down as soon as the last person entered into the church. And I thought that was just incredible for me. I had never seen rain behave like that in Paraguay. Like, yeah, it'll turn on and off, but I never saw it happen like that. Like specifically during the time where we needed to stop, it stopped. And that was something that was really powerful for me on my mission.
That's, the cosmic timing of all that. That's just, yeah, that's an incredible story.
And hopefully they had a great experience at church and we're able to learn something. But, there was a reason for it,
And then there's the underlying miracle of nobody falling out of the truck. You know?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I mean, the cab of the truck, like inside, there was a huge hole right in the passenger side, just on the floor. Like this was an old beat up truck. Like we're talking
Fred
third world
Flintstone
here.
truck
Yeah,
right there, yeah.
that's right. Yabba dabba doo. It was fun.